A very good afternoon, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to the Indian Council of World Affairs to celebrate Maitri Diwas, the 50th anniversary of India-Bangladesh friendship. To commemorate the day, we are fortunate to have with us His Excellency Mr. K.M. Khalid, State Minister of Culture, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, Mr. Harshvardhan Shringla, Foreign Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, and His Excellency Ambassador Mohammad Imran, High Commissioner, Bangladesh High Commission, New Delhi. Before we start the program, may I request the members of the audience to kindly keep their phone on silent mode. Thank you. May I now request Ambassador Vijay Thakur Singh, Director General, Indian Council of World Affairs, to kindly give her welcome remarks.
A very good afternoon. I warmly welcome His Excellency K.M. Khalid, State Minister of Culture of Bangladesh, Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla, High Commissioner of Bangladesh, His Excellency Mohammad Imran, Honorable Member of Parliament Shamim Hussain, and distinguished guests. It is my pleasure to welcome you to ICWA. This is the first function that we are having in the auditorium after 2 years of the pandemic. So it is my great pleasure to say that it is on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of India-Bangladesh diplomatic relations that I welcome you to ICWA. On this day in 1971, India formally recognized Bangladesh as a sovereign independent nation state. This momentous event is being observed as Maitri Diwas today by India and Bangladesh in 18 countries apart from New Delhi and Dhaka. We in ICWA are deeply honored to have the message of Her Excellency Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina of Bangladesh for this occasion. The year 2021 is of special significance in India-Bangladesh ties. To quote Prime Minister Narendra Modi, this year marks a Triveni, or confluence of events of great significance. It is the Golden Jubilee of the Liberation War of Bangladesh, the birth centenary of Banglabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and the 50th anniversary of our diplomatic ties. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman led a courageous battle for freedom. He was an extraordinary statesman who laid the foundation for his country's growth and development. He was a strong proponent of India-Bangladesh friendship. His legacy and vision has given deep and enduring roots to our ties. The Liberation War of 1971 was a strive for justice over cruel tyranny. Inspired by the 7th March 1971 speech of Banglabandhu, the people of Bangladesh vindicated their self-respect and honor and won the fight for freedom and human rights. For the wholehearted support given by the people and the government of India to Bangladesh, there is recognition and appreciation in Bangladesh. Today, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, brave daughter of Banglabandhu, is providing able and visionary leadership to Bangladesh, which is progressing and realizing the dream charted by Banglabandhu. In its journey of 50 years, Bangladesh has emerged as a major engine of growth in the region, and India truly appreciates the outstanding achievements of Bangladesh in its economic progress, human development, poverty alleviation, and counter-terrorism. India remains a steadfast friend of Bangladesh and a committed partner. India-Bangladesh relations are deeper than any strategic partnership. In fact, a role model for relations between our two neighboring countries. The spirit of friendship, understanding, and mutual respect witnessed between the two countries 50 years ago continues to permeate different aspects of this special multifaceted partnership. Maitri Diwas provides us an opportunity to reflect on the pathway ahead of our shared journey for greater development of the region and for the progress and prosperity of our peoples. Today's panel discussion will focus on the achievements and the way ahead in our bilateral ties. I welcome the panelists, Mr. Hassan Haq Ino, Member of Parliament and former Minister of Information of Bangladesh, Ambassador Rajit Mittar, former High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh, Mr. Sabyasachi Datta, Executive Director of Asian Conference, Shillong, and Mr. Dipen Roy Chaudhary, Diplomatic Editor of the Economic Times. May I take this opportunity to once again extend a warm welcome to His Excellency K.M. Khalid, State Minister of Culture of Bangladesh, Foreign Secretary Harsh Sringla, High Commissioner Mohammad Ibrahim, and to all the distinguished guests. I thank you for your presence. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We will now screen a video on India-Bangladesh Maitri Diwas.
December is a historic day for India-Bangladesh friendship. 50 years ago, on this day, India recognized Bangladesh as an independent nation in support of Bangladesh's War of Liberation. To commemorate this landmark occasion, His Excellency Narendra Modi, Prime Minister of India, and Her Excellency Sheikh Hasina, Prime Minister of Bangladesh, declared to jointly celebrate 6th December as India-Bangladesh Maitri Diwas, Friendship Day.
এবারে সংগ্রাম আমাদের মুক্তির সংগ্রাম এবারে সংগ্রাম স্বাধীনতার সংগ্রাম
In 1971, under the leadership of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the people of East Bengal started a heroic struggle for freedom against an oppressive regime. During the 9-month-long liberation war, over 3 million people lost their lives and more than 200,000 women were violated in East Bengal. In India, there was spontaneous support for the people of Bangladesh. People of India opened their hearts and homes to over 10 million people who fled from genocidal atrocities by Pakistani forces and took refuge in India. Bangladesh's struggle for independence and humanitarian situation received international attention. On 16th December 1971, when people of Bangladesh finally got freedom, it was celebrated on both sides of the border. The composite culture of both countries has been enriched by humanist philosophies of mystics such as Lalon Fakir, who spread the message of tolerance and compassion. 11th century Buddhist scholar Atisa Dipankar, born in present-day Bangladesh, took the message of Buddhism to different parts of Asia. Nobel laureate poet Rabindranath Tagore is the author of the national anthems of both countries. Iconic Bengali poet Qazi Nazrul Islam, the national poet of Bangladesh, was born in India and was laid to rest in Bangladesh. Mahatma Gandhi's ideals of peace, non-violence and communal harmony continue to inspire people in both countries. Bangabandhu was inspired by struggle against imperialism by several leaders such as Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Building on the foundation of shared sacrifices and civilizational ties, Bangladesh-India relationship has culminated into a deep understanding that goes beyond a strategic partnership. Today, Bangladesh and India share a robust and forward-looking partnership in diverse areas. Bangladesh is India's largest trade partner in South Asia, and India is the second-largest trade partner of Bangladesh. Both countries share 54 rivers which unite and sustain people on both sides. Bangladesh is also India's largest development partner. Both countries have a young population and share vibrant people-to-people ties. Largest number of Indian visas are issued in Bangladesh. India and Bangladesh cooperation in extending timely medical assistance during the COVID-19 pandemic bears testimony to the lasting spirit of solidarity. Upholding the humanitarian spirit of liberation war, today Bangladesh hosts over 1 million displaced persons from Rakhine region. Lasting friendship between Bangladesh and India is the fulcrum of peace, stability and prosperity in South Asia and beyond. Bangladesh and India are among the top contributors to UN peacekeeping forces. Both countries are spearheading regional initiatives in the areas such as connectivity, climate action, disaster response and counter-terrorism. Today, we celebrate this spirit of friendship based on shared cultural heritage, pay homage to the heroes from the past, and reaffirm the collective resolve to work towards a better world. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depths of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom. My Father, let my country awake.
গঙ্গা আমার মা, পদ্মা আমার মা, গঙ্গা আমার মা।
May I kindly request His Excellency Mr. K.M. Khalid, State Minister of Culture, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, Mr. Harshvardhan Shringla, Foreign Secretary, Minister of External Affairs, Government of India, Ambassador Vijay Thakur Singh, Director General, Indian Council of World Affairs, and His Excellency Ambassador Muhammad Imran, High Commissioner, Bangladesh High Commission, New Delhi, to kindly come up on stage and take their seats. I request His Excellency Ambassador Muhammad Imran, High Commissioner, Bangladesh High Commission, New Delhi, to kindly deliver his remarks.
His Excellency Mr. K.M. Khalid, MP, Honorable State Minister for Cultural Affairs of Bangladesh, His Excellency Mr. Harshvardhan Shringla, Foreign Secretary of India, Ambassador Vijay Thakur Singh, DG, ICWA, Mrs. Simin Hossain, and Mr. Hassanullah Inu, MPs of Bangladesh Parliament, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you all. It's a great honor to be here today to observe the Maitri Diwas, the Friendship Day, and the 50th anniversary of Bangladesh-India diplomatic relations, along with so many of our friends at this prestigious and historic venue of Sub-2 House. I thank the Indian Council for World Affairs for organizing this event and also the Ministry of External Affairs for their all-out support. Today, on this important occasion of Maitri Diwas, we pay our solemn tribute to our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and all other leaders who laid the foundation of our ever-growing bilateral relations. Let me start by quoting from that historic and long-awaited letter that we received on 6th of December 1971 from the then Indian Prime Minister, addressed to Bangladesh's Prime Minister, conveying India's recognition to Bangladesh. The letter said, I quote, "However long the road and however exacting the sacrifice that our two peoples may be called upon to make the future, I am certain that we shall emerge triumphant," unquote. And in next 10 days, we become triumphant and we emerged victorious, started our new journey. But true to that same prophecy, one must admit that today, we, the two friendly neighbors, have achieved many more major milestones together over the last 50 years. Currently, we are enjoying one of the most glorious periods of our relationship. Today's joint celebration of the Maitri Diwas demonstrates another testament to this ever-growing friendship between our two friendly nations. From the time immemorial, the people of Bangladesh and India have lived side by side, shared each other's happiness, and sympathized with each other in times of their distress. The closeness of relations was aptly demonstrated during Bangladesh's War of Liberation in 1971, when we fought together, shed bloods together, and finally rejoiced together. In his speech in 10th of January 1972 at the Palam Airport, our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, termed this new journey as a journey from darkness to light, from captivity to freedom, from desolation to hope. At the same time, he humbly recalled the support and sacrifice of the people of India. People of Bangladesh always gratefully acknowledge this contribution, which is an integral part of our national history. Ladies and gentlemen, each bilateral relationship has its own character. For Bangladesh-India relations, it is not only the geographical proximity that bring us together, it is also the shared history and common heritage of culture, philosophy, religion, and thought. Our aspirations mingle through our common commitment to freedom, equality, and progress, as well as to the ideals of democracy, socialism, and secularism. The high-level visits, frequent contacts, multitude of engagements in all possible areas between the two countries shape the overall trajectory of our bilateral relations. And the relationship has got a major boost through the frequent interactions and visits between our leaderships in the past decade and also in the recent past. Now, we are looking forward to exchange of more high-level visits in near future as the COVID situation becomes a little bit better. Dear friends, Bangladesh has come a long way since its independence. Under the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, our country has made remarkable strides in all sectors in the past 12 years. Today, Bangladesh stands in the Committee of Nations as a peace-loving, responsible, and contributing member. The United Nations has recently recommended Bangladesh for graduation from LDC category to developing country status. In this glorious journey of development, India has always been with us as a trusted friend and partner. As we are celebrating the Maitri Diwas and 50 years of diplomatic relations between our two nations, we may look forward beyond today into the next 50 years or even more. It is now seemingly a fast-changing, complex, hyper-connected, and uncertain world. The COVID-19 pandemic has added another dimension to the massive transformation. The economies of Bangladesh and India are complementary. Both the countries can work together to realize the potentials of the global economy, including through the promotion of free trade at the bilateral level Collaborations can also be deepened in combating the common threats like terrorism, cyber crimes, drug crimes, and other transnational crimes, and managing the borders in a well-coordinated manner. Ladies and gentlemen, today's joint celebration of Maitri Diwas does not merely mark the 50 years of India's recognition to Bangladesh. This is rather a sheer demonstration of the depth of mutual bonhomie and commitment to working together to attain the common goals for the betterment of the two peoples. Let Bangladesh and India march ahead together, guided by the spirit of the shared past, and produce more success, keeping an eye on the shared future. Before I conclude, I once again thank ICWA and the Ministry of External Affairs for organizing this commemorative event. Long live Bangladesh-India friendship and cooperation. I thank you all.
Thank you, sir. May I kindly request His Excellency Mr. K.M. Khalid, State Minister of Culture, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, to deliver his remarks.
Very good afternoon to all. His Excellency Mr. Harshvardhan Singh Shringla, Foreign Secretary of India. His Excellency Mr. Muhammad Imran, Bangladesh High Commissioner to India. Ambassador Vijay Thakur Singh, Director General ICWA. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by thanking the Minister of External Affairs of India for organizing today's event to celebrate the Maitri Diwas. I am truly honored to join you this afternoon. Today's occasion is a historic one for both Bangladesh and India. This is the first time the two friendly neighboring nations are jointly celebrating the Maitri Diwas, the day on which India formally recognized Bangladesh as an independent and sovereign state in 1971. In this respect, we are thankful to our two prime ministers who decided in March this year to commemorate 6th December as the Maitri Diwas. 2021 is a momentous year for Bangladesh-India relationship, which is marked by the celebration of the Golden Jubilee of independence of Bangladesh. Birth centenary of our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and 50 years of establishment of diplomatic ties between the two countries. Today's joint celebration of Maitri Diwas opens up another shining page in the history of our bilateral relationships. I think the audience can understand Bengalis. Huge Bengalis are here. Bengalis are here, so I want to speak some in my mother language, that is in the year of 71. আমি তখন মাত্র 14 বছর বয়সে একটি ছেলে। এই 6 ডিসেম্বরের জন্য আমরা এই একটি কাঙ্ক্ষিত দিনের জন্য আমরা দীর্ঘ সময় অপেক্ষা করেছি, 9 মাস। লক্ষ লক্ষ মানুষের আত্মদানের মধ্য দিয়ে এবং ভারতের সেদিনের সরকার আমাদের প্রতি যে সহায়তার হাত প্রসারিত করেছিল, 1 কোটি অর্থাৎ 10 মিলিয়ন মানুষকে আপনারা আশ্রয় দিয়েছিলেন as a refugees. The day of 6th December 1971, যখন ভারত আমাদেরকে রিকগনিশন দিল, তখন যুদ্ধ জয়ের এক দ্বার প্রান্তে আমরা পৌঁছে গিয়েছিলাম। সেই সময়টির কথা মনে করে আমি তদানীন্তন সরকার এবং ভারতবর্ষের প্রতি আমি আমার কৃতজ্ঞতা জানাচ্ছি বাংলাদেশ সরকারের পক্ষ থেকে আবার এই 50 বছর পূর্তিতে। We know that Bangladesh is সহজীয় যে হাটের প্রসেস, সেটির একটি পরিক্রমা। আমরা আজকে বাংলাদেশকে ভারতের সবচেয়ে বড় ডেভেলপমেন্ট পার্টনার, এবং বাংলাদেশ is India's biggest state partner of South Asia, and India is the second biggest state partner of Bangladesh. The both countries complement each other and offer a brighter prospect of reaping more economic benefits together. Cooperation between the two governments has also been a driving force for boosting physical and digital connectivity. Both the nations have enhanced the close contrast between the two peoples and geared up the momentum of cultural, education, and local access over the past decade. Ladies and gentlemen, the famous Greek philosopher Aristotle gave a definition of friend. He said, quote, "What is friend? A single soul dwelling in two bodies," unquote. The 50 years long Indo-Bangladesh ties can be a glaring instance of such robust bonding, where bonds of hearts and minds have surpassed the political and national border. Solid friendship requires constant nurturing, consistent efforts aimed at resolving the pending issues and understanding about each other in changing dynamics. I am confident that we would continue to overcome the shared challenges and solidify the partnership to write more success stories on Indo-Bangladesh friendship in the next upcoming days. Thank you. Thanking you all. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu, Bangladesh, Chirojibi Hok.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your insightful remarks. May I now kindly request Mr. Harshvardhan Shringla, Foreign Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, to deliver his address.
Honorable Minister of State for Cultural Affairs of Bangladesh, His Excellency Mr. K.M. Khalid, Honorable Member of Parliament, Mr. Hassan al-Haq Inu, who as former Minister of Information is a strong proponent of very good ties between India and Bangladesh and continues to be, and Mrs. Inu, who is with us. We also have a Member of Parliament from Bangladesh, Ms. Samin Hussain, welcome to her as well. Honorable High Commissioner of Bangladesh, His Excellency Mr. Mohammad Imran, Director General of the ICWA, Master Vijay Thakur Singh, former High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh, and Master Rajit Mitra, who will be leading our panel of discussants today. We also have, it is very honored to have another former High Commissioner, Shri Pinakaranjan Chakravarti with us today. Welcome to him as well. We have some very esteemed panelists. We have Shri Sabyasachi Datta of the Asian Conference, who again has done a number of very, very important substantive events involving India and Bangladesh. Shri Dipanjan Roy Chaudhary, who is editor of the Economic Times, again someone who is an authority on India-Bangladesh relations. Joint Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs, Srimati Smita Pant, who has worked very hard to put this event together. Other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends. It is a very great honor for me to join the celebration of the Maitri Diwas today. Loosely translated, this means Friendship Day. Maitri, however, has a much deeper connotation. It is a relationship that has a depth and a significance beyond the ordinary. It is a bond that has stood the test of time. And so it is with the relationship between India and Bangladesh. This day marks not just the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between India and Bangladesh. It celebrates a unique relationship between two great nations and two great peoples. It celebrates a common heritage. It commemorates a great joint struggle. It highlights our shared aspirations. 50 years ago, the people of Bangladesh were engaged in a mighty struggle. They fought to liberate themselves in one of the greatest movements in history from a vicious regime. India is privileged to have played a role in this struggle for Bangladesh's independence. India is privileged that it could stand shoulder to shoulder with the people of Bangladesh in their most difficult moments. India shared their joy when the people of Bangladesh emerged from the struggle as a victorious people and a free nation. India shared the sorrows of those who paid and were to pay the ultimate price of victory. India saluted the leadership of Bangladesh, of Bangabandhu, one of the greatest leaders, historical figures of our times, and a man who literally shaped the destiny of nations. India recognized Bangladesh as a free and independent nation while it was still fighting its war of liberation. It was the second country in the world to do so. It was a leap of faith. India did so because it was convinced of the righteousness of the Bangladeshi cause and the certainty that it would prevail. Maitri Diwas marks all of this and more. It marks the trust that our nations and peoples have in each other. It signifies the faith that both nations and peoples have in a better tomorrow and exhibits the shared determination to work towards it. That the Prime Ministers of India and Bangladesh decided to designate this historic day as Maitri Diwas demonstrates the resilience, the durability and the strength of our bonds. It honors and consecrates the memory of the shared struggle and the continued solidarity between our two peoples and our two nations. Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, in his message on the occasion of Maitri Diwas today, and he has stated this just a short while ago, recalled and celebrated the foundations of our 50 years of friendship and looked forward to working with Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to further expand and deepen our ties. That India and Bangladesh are together celebrating this day, not just in Dhaka and Delhi, but in 18 capitals across the world, confirms that the bonds are not just strong, it confirms and conveys the shared optimism for the future and the certainty that they will endure and grow. India and Bangladesh, driven by the aspirations and values of their people, are upwardly mobile nations. Both countries are democracies that are consistently growing and diversifying in economic terms. This is a good occasion to draw attention to Bangladesh's successes in its economic journey. Its most recent success, which the High Commissioner alluded to, is its ascent from LDC status. According to the United Nations, only 6 countries have made this transition in the last 50 years. Bangladesh is among a handful of nations that will cross this milestone in the immediate future. India salutes this considerable achievement. We have, as we did in their war of liberation, stood shoulder to shoulder with the people of Bangladesh in this battle for better lives and prosperity for our peoples. Our good wishes will constantly accompany them in this continuing journey. We are and will remain fellow travelers in this road. India will not just make its goodwill felt, but its resources, its capabilities available to the common cause of both countries. Most recently, India and Bangladesh fought the scourge of the COVID-19 pandemic together. Our Prime Ministers attended a virtual meeting of South Asian leaders convened by Prime Minister Modi in March 2020 on combating this challenge. They contributed to an emergency response fund. Senior healthcare professionals and practitioners from both countries have shared their experiences and information formally and informally and continue to do so. Bangladesh was one of the first destinations for Indian vaccines. The Oxygen Express between India and Bangladesh is another example of our solidarity in the face of this health disaster. Bangladesh was a destination of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi's first visit after the disruptions and lockdowns of the pandemic. He traveled to Bangladesh in March this year as the chief guest to commemorate the celebrations of the Golden Jubilee of the creation of Bangladesh. This occasion was one of a Triveni. The two other events that were being commemorated with the birth centenary of the founding father of Bangladesh, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and of the event that we are celebrating today, 50 years of India-Bangladesh diplomatic relations. The President of India will participate in the Golden Jubilee Victory Day celebrations in Dhaka on the 16th of December. This will also be the Honorable President's first visit overseas since the COVID pandemic. Bangladesh was the destination of the first visits outside India of the President of India and Prime Minister after the pandemic. The President of India, Prime Minister of India, and External Affairs Minister of India have visited Bangladesh in the course of this year, or would have visited in the course of this year. This signifies the highest importance that we attach to the relationship with Bangladesh. The message from Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, which we will shortly see, adds to this historic nature and solemnity of today's commemoration. The visionary leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina have provided strategic guidance and weight in shaping the contemporary and future trajectory of India-Bangladesh relations. India and Bangladesh today share a relationship that is stronger, more diversified and mature. Like in all strong relationships, there have been challenges. The period after the horrific assassination of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman on the 15th of August 1975 had its difficulties. We have faced other complex and troubling situations. These have been tackled and continue to be tackled in the framework of mutual trust and cooperation, transcending a conventional strategic partnership between our two nations. India deeply appreciates Bangladesh's decision to erect a memorial to honor the 1,660 and more Indian soldiers who laid down their lives fighting for the cause of Bangladesh. This gesture is deeply appreciated by their surviving and serving comrades in the armed forces and by the families of these gallant warriors, indeed all of India. It is a matter of particular satisfaction that we are joined today by veterans of the war. To them belongs a rare satisfaction, that of witnessing, through the continuing friendship and partnership between our nations, the good that came from their victory. Their sacrifices and of those who died were not in vain. They are joined by others from different walks of life who have worked on strengthening this relationship over the last 5 decades. India has conferred some of its highest civilian awards on a few of them recently. This goodwill has provided the foundations on which a record of innovative diplomatic solutions to bilateral issues is slowly and surely being constructed. With the signing and ratification of the land boundary agreement in 2015 and the demarcation of the maritime boundary, both nations have unlocked the potential for expanding cooperation in the joint management of the border and the blue economy. This is also the spirit that underlies the transformation in connectivity between the two countries. 5 of the 6 railway lines between the two countries that existed prior to 1965 have been revived. The 6th will soon be revived. In addition, a railway line is being built to link Akhoda and Agartala, which in principle would provide a direct line between Bangladesh's western border with India and eastern border with India. India and Bangladesh share the Bay of Bengal and 54 rivers. These are being exploited to create a low carbon footprint, connectivity through waterways and coastal shipping. Cargo, for example, can now move to Agartala from Kolkata via Chattogram. India and Bangladesh are linked through power grids. A common energy market is emerging. Over 1,100 megawatts of power now moves across the border. India and Bangladesh are cooperating in power generation, including but not exclusively through the flagship 1320 megawatt super thermal Maitri power plant project. India and Bangladesh are also cooperating in the generation of civil nuclear power. Bangladesh has joined the International Solar Alliance. Cooperation in renewable energy is a distinct possibility. India and Bangladesh will soon be linked through hydrocarbon pipelines, which will enable us to reassure the energy security of both our countries. Bangladesh is India's biggest trade partner in South Asia. India is the second largest trade partner of Bangladesh. Despite the pandemic, bilateral trade grew at an unprecedented rate of 14%, from $9.46 billion in the year 2019-20 to $10.78 billion in the year 2021. Bangladesh's exports to India have now crossed the $1 billion mark. Post-pandemic realities are emerging. India and Bangladesh will cooperate increasingly as the pandemic cooperation between health professionals has shown in the digital space. A newer generation will find new issues to work on: fintech, digital payment solutions, and digital enablers fostered by programs such as JAM, Jan Dhan Aadhaar Mobile, Trinity, UPI, Digital India Stack are future areas of cooperation. IT parks are being built in 12 districts of Bangladesh to further cooperation in this domain. Healthcare has always been an important area of bilateral engagement. Contemporary initiatives such as the Ayushman Bharat and Jal Jeevan Mission provide newer areas to work together on. India and Bangladesh, I'm sure, will cooperate in building a green economy through climate actions and ambitions. The protection and management of shared spaces such as the Sundarbans has upsides for both. India will continue to work with Bangladesh in facilitating the movement of people and goods through better border infrastructure and policy frameworks. India will also continue to work with Bangladesh on a peaceful and stable border through better border management and security cooperation. Improved border infrastructure is helping border guarding forces keep the border safe, including through joint patrolling and the real-time exchange of information. India will endeavor to remain a trusted development partner of Bangladesh's. Bangladesh is the largest single destination for Indian development partnership resources. More than a third of India's soft loans through concessional lines of credit are deployed with Bangladesh. Credits worth more than $10 billion on the softest terms have been extended. This is an indication of our priorities. Defense cooperation, already being supported by increased interaction, and a $500 billion line of credit in defense is being scaled up. Interoperability, maritime security cooperation, and ensuring sustainable use of maritime resources are emerging as areas of cooperation. India and Bangladesh are working on these and other areas through constructs such as the IORA, BIMSTEC, and the Indian Ocean Naval Symposium. The people-to-people connect has continued to increase exponentially. The greatest numbers of visitors to India is from Bangladesh. Indians and Bangladeshis are meeting and building more friendships and partnerships in academic settings, in healthcare, in intellectual spaces, through businesses, in pilgrimage locations, and in tourist destinations. A Kolkata-Dhaka dialogue is being institutionalized. More dialogues are being organized under the BIMSTEC and BBIN frameworks. A Bangabandhu chair has been established in Delhi University. Both countries share a strong commitment to counter destabilizing forces that aid and abet terrorism and radicalization. Strengthening cooperation in tackling new and emerging challenges such as misinformation and disinformation through the internet is of the highest importance. Effective cooperation between both countries will go a long way in preserving social harmony. For people of my generation, the 1971 war is an indelible part of our lived experience. The Pakistani Army's genocidal atrocities in East Bengal in March 1971 resulted in over 3 million people being killed and countless violated with horrific brutality. Over 10 million people from East Bengal took refuge in India. Today, in a similar humanitarian gesture, Bangladesh hosts over 1 million displaced persons from across the border. India joins the international community in appreciating this powerful statement. It was my honor to have spent a significant part of my professional career in working on the India-Bangladesh relationship. It is also a source of personal satisfaction for me to participate in today's event and to acknowledge the spirit that it represents. It gives me faith, the same faith that infused our predecessors in 1971 in the friendship between our peoples and our nations. It also gives me confidence that the next 50 years of our shared journey will bring us even greater satisfaction. Jai Hind, Joy Bangla. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir, for your address. I would now request all the dignitaries to return to their seats in the auditorium. We will now be screening the message by Her Excellency Sheikh Hasina, Honorable Prime Minister, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, greetings and assalamu alaikum. Bangladesh and India are celebrating the golden jubilee of the establishment of diplomatic relations. This is a milestone in the journey of our bilateral ties. India recognized Bangladesh as an independent and sovereign state on the 6th December 1971. During the state visit of the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Sri Narendra Modi, to Bangladesh on 26th and 27th March 2021, we agreed on the joint celebrations in 18 selected cities, along with Dhaka and New Delhi, and to recognize the 6th December as Maitri Diwas. I pay my deep homage to the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and four national leaders. I recall the sacrifices of 3 million martyrs and 200,000 dishonored women of our liberation war. I also remember with great gratitude the sacrifices of the members of the Indian Armed Forces and its people in our liberation war. Excellencies, the foundation of Bangladesh-India relations was laid by our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. In 1972, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib said, I quote, "We have a very special relationship with India. The relationship is the friendliest. Friendship of Bangladesh and India is in our hearts. The bonds of friendship will remain firm and long lasting." Unquote. Today, I fondly recall the generosity of former Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi and her government, leaders of other political parties, and overall the people of India towards the people of Bangladesh in 1971. They provided accommodation to 10 million refugees from Bangladesh, gave space for the Mujibnagar government, and waged a diplomatic campaign in favor of Bangladesh. Our partnership is not confined to the treaties, MUs, bilateral agreements that provide the formal structures for our working relations. Today, our grand partnership has matured, taking dynamic, comprehensive, and strategic shape, and is based on sovereignty, equality, trust, and mutual respect. The relationship between Bangladesh and India is anchored in history, culture, language, and shared values of secularism, democracy, and countless other harmonies. Our bonds of friendship have been further strengthened, diversified, and expanded in the recent years due to regular high level political interactions and exchanges. The core of the bilateral relationship now needs to concentrate on people to people contact, trade, business, and connectivity, which have become increasingly important for both sides despite restrictions imposed by COVID 19. The relationships at all levels have remained stable and strong. This was evident in our excellent cooperation and collaboration in dealing with the COVID 19 pandemic. We continue to believe in the importance of our relationship. At the same time, this anniversary is an opportunity to reflect on the foundation of our bilateral relations and the path ahead. It is an occasion also to recommit ourselves to work towards further strengthening the long standing dynamic partnership between Bangladesh and India. I am confident that together our two countries and two peoples will continue to turn our vision and ideas into realities for decades to come. I thank you all. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu, may Bangladesh live forever. Long live Bangladesh India friendship.
We now conclude the opening session. I would request Dr. Nivedita Ray, Director Research, ICWA, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Honorable Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Indian Council of World Affairs, it gives me great pleasure to propose the vote of thanks. On this occasion of Maitri Diwas, we are greatly honored to receive the message of the Honorable Prime Minister of Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, Her Excellency Sheikh Hasina, for our program. Her inspiring leadership and her guidance acts as a beacon for strengthening India-Bangladesh relations. I take this opportunity to express our heartfelt gratitude to His Excellency Mr. K.M. Khalid, Honorable State Minister of Culture, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, for gracing us with his presence and sharing his valuable thoughts on this occasion. I would like to extend our special thanks to Shri Harshvardhan Singla, Foreign Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, for delivering a very insightful address. I thank His Excellency Ambassador Muhammad Imran, High Commissioner of Bangladesh, for sharing his valuable perspectives on this occasion. I also take this opportunity to extend our gratitude to the distinguished panelists from India and Bangladesh who have joined us on this occasion of Maitri Diwas for the panel discussion on India-Bangladesh ties. I thank the Ministry of External Affairs for their support and guidance in organization of this program. I also convey my thanks to the print and electronic media for covering the event. Last but not the least, I thank each one of you in the audience for your valuable presence in this opening session and look forward to your participation in the panel discussion. Thank you once again.
This concludes our opening session. I take this opportunity to thank all the dignitaries for their valuable time. We will now start with our panel discussion. Audience members are requested to kindly remain seated. anniversary of India-Bangladesh diplomatic relations. Discussion on the 50th anniversary of India-Bangladesh diplomatic relations. The discussion will be chaired and moderated by Ambassador Rajit Mithar, former High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh. Our panelists are Mr. Sabyasachi Datta, Executive Director, Asian Confluence Shillong; Hassanul Haq Inu, Member of Parliament, former Minister of Information of Bangladesh; Mr. Deepanjan Roy Chaudhary, Diplomatic Affairs Editor, The Economic Times. I would request the chair and the panelists to please come up on stage and take their seats. I now hand over the proceedings to Ambassador Mitter.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Honorable Hasanul Haq Inu, Member of Parliament, Honorable Shamim Hussain, Member of Parliament, who's present here also, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen. We've had a most enlightening opening session to mark this first celebration of Maitri Diwas, the day that India extended recognition to Bangladesh. So it marks the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations. We've also heard how it is also the golden jubilee of Bangladesh's freedom and, of course, the birth centenary of the great leader of Bangladesh, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. We have been particularly honored and privileged to have received a video message from Her Excellency Sheikh Hasina, Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh, which really sets the stage for our discussions today. Maitri Diwas, as we've heard from all the speakers, is not just a celebration of the friendship between two governments, but I think more importantly, the friendship between the peoples of India and Bangladesh. This actually goes back right to the 1971, the long months of the liberation war struggle led by Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. And even then there were contacts at official level, but leading eventually to Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's decision to intervene militarily to join with the courageous fighters of the Mukti Bahini and quickly ensure the independence and freedom for the people of Bangladesh. But we should also not forget the huge popular upsurge of support from the Indian people for the just cause of the Bangladesh people, and their disgust at the horrific genocide that was being carried out in that region. There are countless accounts of individual acts of sacrifice and rendering of assistance, particularly from the states of northeastern India and, of course, West Bengal. Just to add a personal note, as Foreign Secretary said, we are the generation who one of our first international exposures was to the Bangladesh Liberation War. I was a college student in Calcutta in those days, and I clearly remember the huge spontaneous support that developed. There were collection of donations at street corners and ordinary people offering bus rides, tram rides, meals, cinema tickets to all the people from Bangladesh who happened to have come to Kolkata in those days. I was also fortunate to be present when Bangabandhu Mujibur Rahman and Srimati Indira Gandhi held a huge public meeting on the 6th of February 1972 in Kolkata in the Brigade Parade Ground. I think that was probably one of the biggest public rallies ever seen in Calcutta. And Calcutta is a place where it's quite easy to mobilize large numbers of people. Bangabandhu famously said that after expressing gratitude to the support of the government and people of India, my hands are empty and I have nothing to give. The only thing I have is love. I offer you all my love. The crowd was hugely moved by these sentiments. And indeed, this is the spirit of friendship that we need to nurture and further promote. In the last several years, India-Bangladesh relations have achieved unprecedented success in bilateral cooperation for mutual benefit. This has covered a huge spectrum of events, matters to be dealt with, including infrastructure, connectivity, energy, waterways, border management, settling of land and maritime boundaries, security, human resources, culture, and people-to-people contacts. Bangladesh is also a critical component of India's Act East policy and has played a leading role in some of the sub-regional initiatives in this area, such as BBIN and BIMSTEC. To discuss these issues, to see what we have achieved and what further needs to be done, we are fortunate to have a very eminent panel of experts. So let us, without further ado, request them to give their remarks. I'll first call upon Mr. Shobhashachi Dotto, Executive Director, Asian Conference, Shillong, to give his remarks.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good afternoon, and thank you very much on behalf of myself and a lot of my friends from the northeastern region of India. I bring to you their greetings and warm greetings on this auspicious occasion. Thanks to the chair, and very nice to meet His Excellency Hassanul Inu and my friends. I think the message of the Prime Minister of Her Excellency Sheikh Hasina, she used the word trust and she used the word values. And this relationship between India and Bangladesh is based on common values of respect for democracy, respect for freedom, respect for human rights. And it is on that basis that we here are today. And on a personal note, my family we are products of partition. My father's and mother's side both belong to the Sylhet district of Bangladesh. And as children, we used to hear how, our grandmothers used to say how they used to just hop over from Sylhet over to Shillong, and the wonderful days, the colleges that they studied, MC College in Sylhet, and etc. And today, with our work, I'm rediscovering that synergy, and it's kind of symbolic for me to be here, and very, very personally poignant for me to be here today on that occasion. So thank you for that. Thanks to the ICWA and Madam Vijay Thakur Singh for that. The Foreign Secretary gave us a huge, laid out a very elaborate picture of all the initiatives that are underway between India and Bangladesh. It ranges from roadways to railways to airways to e-ways to powerways to digital linkages. Our work in the overall sub-region as part of IORA, BIMSTEC, BBIN, and of course the whole Bay of Bengal, our mutual dependence in the region. And against that background, I just want to lay out a couple of thoughts from the border areas. We in India and Bangladesh, we share 4,000 odd more kilometers of borders. In the northeastern region of India, we are closer to the borders than probably we are here from Delhi. But I can tell you that the prosperity of the borders, the security at the borders, the prosperity and livelihood of the people at the borders, at our shared borders, at both ends, would be probably key to look at the next 50 years as we celebrate the friendship today and moving forward. And I would like to use this very august gathering here to lay out maybe an idea or two that we have. We have 4,000 kilometers plus of borders. We have 54 rivers across these borders, counted rivers. There are many more actually, rivulets. These borders are very fluid. Every rainy season, you know, the rivers change, the marshlands change. Some of them are not even, fenceable. What is probably a good idea to move forward as we have this elaborate network of roads and rails and riverways coming up is a border. Can we think of a border prosperity zone? We have border huts. We've had border huts, and these have been extremely successful examples of cooperation across the borders. And probably we could think about this wonderful friendly relation that is there could also showcase itself for the next 50 years in terms of a border co-prosperity zone, you can call it, or a border economic zone, or a border friendship town, whatever we may call it, a zone where people can come and go, and things can really showcase the best of technology, connectivity, people-to-people ties, culture, arts, performing arts, medical cooperation, educational cooperation. So we could think on those lines. The second idea, Chair, I may have is that we have a very rich history of inland waterways between India and Bangladesh. At Asian Confluence, we hold a river festival, and I've been researching these narratives around the rivers. And there are so many stories about steamers going all the way from Dibrugarh to Chittagong, and you could actually buy a railway ticket and get on a steamer and vice versa. So we had multimodal connectivity in the past. And small anecdotes like the chicken curry and caramel pudding on the RSN was a very, very popular thing for the steamers people. So we could revive a museum through a museum of riverine transport, a museum of boats about a maritime, not a maritime, but a river museum, an inland waterways museum. So this is the second idea that I have, and the third idea that I have is, or I'm here, to sort of share with you is, there are a lot of young people in Bangladesh and India. In spite of the great relations that we have today, probably the younger generation doesn't know as much about each other as we should. There are many, many young artists, entrepreneurs, both in India and Bangladesh, who would be gaining immensely if we were to hold some forum where more youth exchanges were to happen. Maybe this could be led by some youth parliamentarians coming back and forth, followed up by entrepreneurs, artists, etc. And I think these three things, along with what His Excellency Foreign Secretary said, I think, a common aim to deal with bigger factors like climate change and those kind of things. So at Asian Confluence, I conclude, we will be hosting we do host an annual festival called Nadi. Nadi means rivers. Our shared rivers, but Nadi also means the pulse of energy, in our body. We call it Nadi in Sanskrit. And we are actually like if we look at our landscape, we are actually like one energy, one body, these pulses of energy. So we think of it as Nadi. And then one of my friends, he gave a very nice acronym to it, which is, we are natural allies in development in an increasingly interdependent world. So on that count, long live India-Bangladesh relations. Jai Bangla, Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, and for coming up with some new ideas, which I'm sure in the question answer we can develop further on. May I now request Mr. Hasanul Haq Inu to give his address. Mr. Inu is former Minister for Information from 2012 to 2019. He is a three-time Member of Parliament from Kushtia constituency, and presently is the president of the Jatiyo Party in Dal Jashod, a political party. Mr. Inu.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this session to speak a few words. Assalamu alaikum and namaskar to you all. With us today, Ambassador Rajit Mitra. We know him from the years when he was in Bangladesh and working together for better friendship. We are here with Shabbochari Datta and of course Dipanjan Rai Chaudhary, you all know them. And with us, my colleague in the parliament, Shimin Hossain Rimi is here. Incidentally, she is the daughter of the wartime Prime Minister, Mr. Tajuddin Ahmed, who was assassinated after the killing of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman in 1975. Other dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, greetings from Bangladesh and greetings from Her Excellency Sheikh Hasina. Let me recall the war of 1971 because I personally, not only a witness, but a participant in 1971. As I gathered that everybody was very young at that time, but I see some persons with white hairs, possibly they are participating in 1971. Let me pay my tributes to the freedom fighters, my tributes to the martyrs of Bangladesh, and my tributes to the Indian soldiers and people who led their lives during the Liberation War. I pay my tribute to the then Indian government and her Prime Minister, Great Indira Gandhi. I pay my tribute and recall the support of the peoples of India and intelligentsia across India. I especially underscore the role of the bordering states of Bangladesh, especially West Bengal, Tripura, Assam, Meghalaya. But the whole of India with us, so I pay my salute and tributes to them. I have been introduced, but my position during the war was, I was the camp commander of the largest guerrilla training center up near Dehradun at a place called Tandua, the largest guerrilla training center of Bangladesh Liberation Force or Mujib Bahini. Under my command, I trained 10,000 plus minus fighters. I was also an instructor also. I saw how the Indian authorities extended their cooperation. Late General Uban was from the Indian side to coordinate the activities of the Mujib Bahini. His son, another Major General Uban, is still living in New Delhi, who is a Kargil hero. I know him personally. So my thanks to them, everybody. Having said that, today we are celebrating 50 years of Bangladesh-India diplomatic relations. Though the formal state-to-state relations started on 6 December 1971, the seed of friendship and relation was sown just after the declaration of independence of Bangladesh by the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, on 26 March 1971. On the other hand, denying the people's verdict in 1970 elections, the Pakistani army cracked down on the peoples of Bangladesh and started a barbaric genocide from 25th March night 1971, for which you have already heard over 10 million Bangladeshi people had to leave their country and took refuge in India. India received these refugees and stood by Bangladesh in its liberation. And thus, a unique tree of friendship started to grow and gathered strength from the blood flow of Indian Jawans and Bangladeshi freedom fighters. Ladies and gentlemen, India took the matter at the international level, fought first at the diplomatic front and then at the military front, involving track 1 and 2 diplomacies. Indians fought shoulder to shoulder with Bangladeshi freedom fighters. This joint effort of 1971 remains the cornerstone of bilateral ties after 50 years. In first years after liberation, the areas of discord between Bangladesh and India were identified, treaties and associated legal documents were signed. India, along with Bhutan, was the first countries to recognize Bangladesh on 6 December 1971 and shares its longest border of 4,096 kilometers with Bangladesh. In spite of many commonalities, India-Bangladesh relations have experienced many ups and downs over the past 50 years. It is because of the assassination of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman in 1975 that was a great blow to Bangladesh and also to India-Bangladesh relations. After that, we witnessed years of military rule, which was more reminiscent of the Pakistan-era military rule. It seriously affected Bangladesh-India relations. Mistrust, lack of confidence, insecurity troubled us, and mistrust deficit started haunting both of us. However, restoration of democracy opened up a new era, especially under Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, of cooperation in bilateral relations. In the last 50 years, though we are neighbors and friends, and we do together defeated the forces of religious fanaticism, communalism, as sponsored by Pakistan, still the ghost of mistrust, ghost of 1947 haunts us sometimes. Despite a quite number of misunderstandings between the two neighbors, despite some roadblocks, the two countries maintained close relationships. Bilateral relations reached a new height through several agreements and mutual understandings. Ladies and gentlemen, the Land Boundary Agreement is a major milestone in developing bilateral cooperation and ensuring regional security. So also, the maritime boundary has been demarcated. Out of 54 common rivers, the Accord of the Ganges in 1996 is another milestone. Well, we took forward to also setting the water sharing issue of other major rivers, including Tista, which has remained pending dispute after repeated promises. Bangladesh and India have also security issues for mutual benefits and to address common challenges. We have also made progress on trade, and currently, as you heard, that Bangladesh is the largest trading partner of India in South Asia. Bangladesh has invited more investment and allocated 2 special economic zones for Indian investment alone. Connectivity has grown in land, air and water. Planning to use resources of the blue economy for the benefit of the people are already in the move. These positive steps started lessening the trust deficits, which aims at establishing a better connectivity with ASEAN regions and other countries of the Indo-Pacific. India's dream, and especially His Excellency Mr. Modi's policy of Act East policy, can be materialized with the helping hands of Dhaka, which Dhaka has already extended in various ways, which still also usher an entirely different future of hopes and prosperity for India's northeast in Bangladesh knocked region. From this perspective of India, northeast, Bangladesh is India's most strategic neighbors. The geography will continue to dictate the destinies of India-Bangladesh as these two neighbors have to remain inseparably intertwined with mutual trust and amalgamation of strategic and economic priorities. In spite of ups and downs, India-Bangladesh relation is now consolidated after 50 years. It is now time to explore potentialities to raise the relationship to a new height in the context of the present global era. South Asia is an old civilization with more than 1.7 billion peoples. Also, it is a global because of diaspora. Market is also global, where Bangladesh is number 2 RMG exporter. Bangladesh is also the second biggest peacekeepers of the world. South Asia is also nuclear and has already registered its presence in space. Well, India's sports, culture and entertainment industry has a very unique footprint in the global arena. From Himalayas to Sundarbans and the deltaic Bangladesh with flowing sweet water and blue oceans, all are areas of resources to be explored. The huge manpower, if skilled and educated, can become a change maker not only in South Asia but also across the world. If it can turn South Asia into a consumer society, eradicate poverty, and transform South Asia into an economic giant of the world. So India and Bangladesh is blessed with human resources, water resources, natural resources, and an old civilization. And in a strong, at this turning point of the world, when we see a clear shift of the global economic center of gravity from west to east, to seize this opportunity, we need to cement our ties to a new special height for a comprehensive approach. Ladies and gentlemen, for this we need to fix our priorities, remove irritants, explore the areas of cooperation, and also need to look forward to move with the wheel of friendship by issue-to-issue solutions and parallelly plan an approach for a comprehensive planning to harness the resources. For this, as Mr. Modi said in 2015 when visiting Dhaka, "Hum paas paas hain, hum saath saath bhi hain." We are side by side, we are together. Yes, correctly he said, voiced his feelings. Our togetherness shall develop a prosperous shared future. On this occasion, I do humbly say that the border is an irritation for both of us. Let me submit candidly that India managed border with other neighbors creatively, particularly not carrying firearms in the vicinity of the border. So India-Bangladesh border can be managed without firing a single bullet from both sides. Looking forward, I do think that border is not merely a sign of demarcation of land and water, but it can be an area of prosperous economic cooperation, as we are already trying to set up mini huts recently around the borders. As Mr. Modi ji in 2015 when visiting Dhaka said, "Panchi, Pavan or Pani do not need visas," hinting at the contentious water sharing issue to ensure Dhaka that the issue to be pursued. Thanks. And again, Modi ji said in 2017, April 8, expressed firm belief that only his government and the government of Sheikh Hasina can and will find an early solution to Tista water sharing. Hope we are waiting for that. So there is no disagreement, but we are in the same plane. Just it need to be done. With Mr. Modi's comment, I add also, virus knows no border. We laud the Indians' positive extension of help to us on the vaccine issue. If whole South Asia is not vaccinated, then both of us will suffer. So vaccine cooperation is to be prioritized. So we need to ensure continuous supply of vaccine for the joint production will help both of us. We both are familiar with the impact of violence, hatred and exclusion, and have been suffering with the burden of the million plus Rohingyas in Bangladesh. So also India is also burdened with Rohingya refugees. We expect and help from India so that we can repatriate them to their country. Ladies and gentlemen, both Bangladesh and India need to engage with other countries for economic enhancement and diversification. So here we reiterate that never ever any relations or any engagements with others cannot overshadow our deep-rooted relationships. So we do not need to see each other through the prism of pre-1971. Let me say again that Bangladesh is Bangladesh, not East Pakistan. We so do not believe in sheltering the dissenters of other countries. We do not believe in a proxy war for a third country. We also are very sensitive to the security concerns of our good friend India. So the soil of Bangladesh will never ever be used by any other country for overt or covert ways against our trusted friend and good friend India. So you will also, we under Sheikh Hasina pursuing a policy of zero tolerance for terrorists within the country and also cross-border terrorists. So we fully agree with Mr. Modi's comment on 2017, April 8, spread of radicalism and extremism poses great threat to India and Bangladesh and entire region. So a joint approach will give more better results. Ladies and gentlemen, to raise our relationship to a higher level, we need to plan for a comprehensive economic boom. So we know for that poverty and religious communalism, radicalism is the biggest hurdle. I say we are sitting on two dangerous bombs, poverty bomb and a communal bomb. We need to defuse these bombs, which we cannot do alone. Together with a comprehensive plan, we can do and can create a path for economic boom and ensure sustained political peace. To defuse poverty bomb, we need to harness the water resources, natural resources, and to defuse communal bomb, we need to crush terrorism and religious fanaticism. Rivers flowing from Himalayas through Bangladesh to Bay of Bengal can be water of hope from water of misery. Only things we need to do is to harness water resources in the Himalayas basin-wise. Harnessing of water resources of Ganga, Brahmaputra, Meghna can open the golden gate of prosperous economy. All these approaches already have been mooted in our agreements and MOUs and treaties. On April 2, 2011, in a framework agreement, penned down, quote, water resources management of common rivers, including water sharing in a holistic manner through common basin-wise management. 2010, 12 January, Hasina visit to India, joint declaration. Article 17, all forms of terrorism are condemned and crushed. 2017, April, Modi ji said, unity and secularism is a motto we cannot afford, which is the motto. We cannot afford divisive polity in India. Then he said, nobody should be allowed to tinker with democracy. Very rightly and correctly said. I am proud to say in this conference that our Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is a bold carrier and torch bearer of secularism. It is just for us to execute by comprehensive water resource management and boldly pursuing a policy of secularism and democracy that in turn will help to defuse the poverty bomb and communal bomb simultaneously and usher a new era of cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, having said that, let me conclude by saying that it's a Czech proverb. Good neighbor increases value of the property. And our great poet Rabindranath Tagore said, division creates poverty, union creates wealth. So I think is rightly said, neither Bangladesh nor India has nothing to lose to each other, but definitely we have many things to conquer, achieve together. Strong, prosperous Bangladesh or strong, prosperous India are never a threat to each other, but it is a boon to both the countries. If Bangladesh is good, then India also will remain good. Bangladesh ভালো থাকলে ভারতও ভালো থাকবে, ভারতও ভালো থাকলে বাংলাদেশও ভালো থাকবে. Let us prepare the field of friendship in such a way so that there can never grow thorns but only flowers. India-Bangladesh good relationship do have an influencing role in South Asia. Lastly, let me again say, we have a common past, a common present. So let us develop a shared future. Joy Bangla. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Mr. Inu. I'll now request Mr. Dipanjan Roy Chaudhary, who is the Diplomatic Affairs Editor of the Economic Times, to make his remarks.
Thank you, Ambassador Mitter. Thank you, Ambassador Singh, for inviting me to this. I'm probably the youngest of all the panelists present here, and I had worked with Ambassador High Commissioner Mitter when he was in High Commissioner in Bangladesh, and I fondly recalled 2011 visit of then Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, which also laid down the foundation of the current relations. Sabyasachi, I know him for many years. I had known his father, Professor Bibi Datta, who unfortunately passed away a few months back. And my connections with Northeast and Bangladesh are quite old. And the members of the Bangladesh High Commission who are present here are testimony to that fact. Many words have been said by Honorable Foreign Secretary and others on particularly the current level of cooperation between India and Bangladesh. Inu Bhai also referred to some excellent ideas. And he may recall that we used to cooperate very closely during the 2001 and 2006 period of both countries had faced very difficult times during that. I don't want to remember any particular prime minister or particular figure, but those are facts. And we cannot remove the facts that both Bangladesh and India, the pain that Bangladesh and India went through in the recent history between 2001 and 2006, when, as he said, the anti-India insurgents were harbored on the soil of Bangladesh with support from our eastern neighbor. And I don't mince my words on that, on who supports such kind of elements in our eastern neighborhood, including in the recent times during Durga Puja. I would rather focus a little bit on the genocide part, and today we are celebrating the 50 years of friendship. And this cannot be overlooked. Celebration cannot be done without paying homage to these martyrs, unsung heroes of that war. 3 million people who laid down their lives, 200,000 women whose dignity was hampered. And I have recently listened to some of those tales by some of those women. 14-year, 13-year, 12-year-old girls at those point of time, and how they were pulled out of homes and taken in custody for many months between March and December. And when they were released, some of the family members were refused to accept them, and some of them unfortunately even landed up in brothels. This has never happened in the history of humankind. In the recent history of humankind, how can the international community tolerate this? I have simply no explanation. I'm saying this not only as a Bengali, but as a human being. We talk about Turkey's genocide against Armenia. People talk about the genocide in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I don't want to label any particular community there. But, this is something in today's world, this is a war crime. the Sheikh Hasina government has tried these people, brought to justice. India handed over some of these war criminals. But between what happened between 1977 and thereafter, the people were given posts. People were these people who were involved in the genocide, people were involved in the killing of Bangabandhu, and this is the 100th year of his birth. And were given ambassadorial posts. They were sent to various countries. Various countries at that point of time also supported that. And even today, it pains me to see that the Summit of Democracy is being held at the end of this week, and Bangladesh is not invited in the Summit of Democracy. Does the country which organized the Summit of Democracy 50 years after, has the country not changed its stand, what it held 50 years before? Has US still holds to that stand that they didn't want the Pakistan to get divided and the independent nation? How can Pakistan get invited to the Summit of Democracy and Bangladesh not get invited to the Summit of Democracy? I have no answer to that. I don't think anybody should have answer to that. I'm not getting into which other country has not been invited, but if Bangladesh is not invited on the occasion of 50, and that too on the year of the 50th year of its independence, I don't think democracy can be defined in somebody sitting in a particular building and the way that democracy is defined, and our Western neighbor get invited to that event, and we know what kind of democracy is being practiced there, where a foreign national recently was killed on quote unquote on the charges of blasphemy. I have no answer to this, and I'm not saying this because I am a Bengali and with roots in East Pakistan, and I have heard from my father, how he used to cross the river from Parvatipur to go into Kuch Bihar. I'm not saying this, but these are facts, and if the independence of Bangladesh is not celebrated globally, then what should we celebrate it, and what should India and Bangladesh, celebrate? It pains me to see that such incidents happen. Incidentally, it's a coincidence that today, while we are celebrating the Maitri Diwas here in Delhi and in many other capitals of the world, incidentally, there's a summit which is happening in this evening between Prime Minister of India and the Russian President Vladimir Putin. And the role of Soviet Union in 1971 also cannot be ignored. If we hadn't signed that treaty, if the both countries hadn't signed the treaty on August 9 in 1971, I don't know what would have been the future of South Asia. It was the most consequential treaty that India has ever signed with any country. It was signed after a lot of negotiations for 2 years. Ambassador Chandrasekhar Dasgupta's book devotes 2 full chapters to that. And we should also think about, talking about those issues. Of course, geopolitics have changed and 50 years have passed. But there are certain moments in history which cannot be forgotten. And without that treaty, and it probably is a coincidence that the summit is being organized today. If in this 50 years, when we look back at what Bangladesh has achieved and what Pakistan has achieved, Pakistan has only gone downhill from what they were in the 1970s and 80s. The Islamization of Pakistan military, the Islamization of Pakistan society, where they have landed up in this 50 years in terms of the economic achievement, and where Bangladesh has landed up in this 50 years is a remarkable journey, as Foreign Secretary mentioned, among the 6 countries who have crossed the LDC status into developing status, and it will go into developing status in 2024. The country which still doesn't offer an apology, the country which still wants to, in passing, talks about, when General Musharraf went there when Khaleda Zia was the Prime Minister, remember, she said some sorry. A sorry is not enough for what their forces had done, and as people would say, it's occupation forces. It said it was part of one country. The forces don't behave against its civilians in that way. I am a journalist and a practitioner journalist, and also look at some of the way the media had covered. And while some of the Western powers were not in favor of a war and creation, and rather to say the balkanization of Pakistan into 2 countries, I think we should also look back at some of the Western media, how they had covered, and I take it with as a pride and my community that despite the positions that their governments took, their media took a very positive stand. They highlighted these, including in the US, press. And I had, been part of a book which sort of saw the press reports between January 1971 and December 1971, and I saw how the media, particularly in the US and UK, had covered and give support to this movement, and which was also reflected in some ways when the Security Council resolutions were moved prior to the war. This definitely played a role in somewhere shaping the opinion of some of the governments in the West, and we should. There is another. Incidentally, a journalist from Pakistan who were taken on a sort of paid trip to East Pakistan at that time, Anthony Mascarenhas. He went there. I mean, he came back, but he couldn't sleep. I'm told he was based in Karachi. He was Goanese, right? He was Goanese who had settled in Karachi. He actually couldn't sleep, and he later went to UK. I mean, he was working for a UK-based paper and told his editor that he wants to write this story of this genocide, what is happening and what he saw in March and April 1971. And he said that only after his family reaches London that he's going to release this story. And Anthony Mascarenhas lived for another 20 years after that. He's the one who also talked about Pakistan's secret nuclear program in the late 1970s. He exposed that. And, he had the courage, of writing this and exposing to the world what had gone through. There is a book which was published on his writing many years back. Probably the book is no longer available. But, there are these unfinished saga of 1971. It's unfinished because Bangabandhu could not survive or was not allowed to survive in 1975. I mean, these were the forces who were at work. From the day one, they planned and then they tied down his hands, forcing him to certain decisions. I don't want to get into those decisions, what he took, but forcing him to take certain decisions. Created famine in the country, created, situations, unbearable situations, and therefore prove him that he is guilty of pushing this military agenda. And we saw what happened after 1977, and thereafter continued till Sheikh Hasina was allowed to, participate in election and return some of the glory that her father had tried to establish. The forces are still at work. There are in various forms, and we should be very cautious with such forces of radicalization who are still, continuously trying to disturb this model because it's as it is often called, it's unfinished agenda of 1971. I don't think that humiliating defeat of 1971 could be digested by them so far, and we are all paying still till date after 50 years. People in Bangladesh are paying for that, and they're constantly would be planning. They have their mentors and they have their own collaborators who would plan. I would not go into that, but there are forces, and we should be cautious against such forces. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dipanjan. Well, we are running a little behind time, and so I thought we'll combine this discussion and question and answer together and throw it open because we've got a large and interested audience, and I'm sure they have comments or questions. So please address your comment or question to whoever, and please mention your name and if you're affiliated to any organization. But keep it short so that more and more people can participate in this. So the floor is open. Any short comment, any question? Yes, madam. You.
Bangladesh, because in '81, I had gone to Bangladesh as a young PhD scholar to do my research work in Dhaka, and I had gone to the villages in Dhaka. And what impressed me most was in 10 years, the mass media was so beautifully done for the rural Bangladesh folks. They were doing theater, plays, and through songs and drama, they were teaching them about the family planning programs. Not the way we did in India, but the way they did it through folk dramas. I was so impressed with the mass media over there because my research work was on the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, and the Ministry of Family Planning. So I'd been to all the three ministries. I'd gone to the to the Planning Commission also. But of course, being a Bengali, I had to speak everywhere in Bengali, which was a very good thing. But I must congratulate you that in 10 years, and today Bangladesh has economically overtaken and done so well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Maybe Mr. Winu could give us the points for the
question. Thank you very much that
of Bangladesh's success.
The position long before this day. Well, Bangladesh is doing excellent in women empowerment, child health care, and especially about the family planning you said. So the indicators in Bangladesh as such now, Bangladesh jodi boli matri mrityu har, shishu mrityu har has come down very drastically low. So that is an achievement, and in the education sector, up to 10th grade, the gender balance of girl student and boy students are 50-50. That is the position. But thanks to Sheikh Hasina's government for the last 13 years, she has pursuing a policy of economy where she is emphasizing on village economy, agricultural economy, women empowerment, social safety net. In spite of caution from the World Bank and IMF and international quarters, but during the military rule, there's almost mortgaged the Bangladesh economy to the international organizations. So that is why our growth rate came down. So now, because of the pandemic, it is a little low, but this pandemic, Bangladesh is registering more than 5% growth rate. Before that, we are registering 8% plus growth rate. So it is because of a change of policy in the economy, which is emphasizing on agriculture, middle farmers, child, women, and social safety net. So thank you very much for your appreciation.
Thank you. Yes, there was a gentleman there who wanted to ask. Yes, please. Please introduce yourself.
Hello. So I am Vivek Shukla. I am representing University of Delhi here. So my question is regarding the unlawful crossing of India-Bangladesh border. This issue is as old as India-Bangladesh relations. So my question from the panel is that will this issue ever be resolved? And what are the steps that both countries can take to resolve it? Thank you.
Maybe you can, you are the closest to the border. Shobha will say some points.
Well, you know, while the issue is there, but we must understand that the way to deal with this is to not isolate border areas and keep them dark, but make them more vibrant, alive, with constructive movements of people, goods, transport, culture across the borders. And that's what I was alluding to, that, you know, we should look at new paradigms of how we look at our shared borders, you know, because the potential for constructive movement of goods, people, is much higher than you know, unlawful you know, things. Yeah.
Anybody want to add something?
Hi, I'm Colonel Rastogi.
Yes, sir.
And 50 years ago, we were standing in Bongaon. My battalion was deployed there. If you permit, then I can speak a few words about our how the Mukti Bahini and we all collaborated and the United.
But just, yeah, we'd like to hear from you, but please keep it very short because there are many people who would like to. Please carry on, sir.
Please tell.
No, please carry on. I just said don't make it a little short, that's all.
Okay. You know, in Bongaon, we moved in July, and we saw the summers and the rainy season also. And Mukti Bahini, Major Ahmad, he used to be our, we used to sort of associate with him. He will come and give us the story of what is across and what all he wants. And we will provide him the ammunition, the weapons and other things, other stores. In the meantime, we got a lot of media, the press correspondents, because there were about 100 of them. I mean, they came, turn by turn. One of them, a British correspondent, he said, that time I was a major, so Major, how much time do you think you will take to reach Dhaka? I had no idea, I had no knowledge, I mean, I couldn't say anything, but just on the brink of the moment, I said 15 days. He had a good laugh. He said, young man, the border is completely sealed. They are prepared to fight you for 1 year. So take it easy and inform your seniors. I said, okay, I did that. Then we had a press correspondent from Italy. And those days with Major Ahmad, we used to go inside for 5 miles, 10 miles, so that because these correspondents, they can see what is happening. And the shelling started. We all went into the ground. And I must say those media people who were with me, that group, every one of them was trained as a, let's say, a Fauji. But in addition, what they were doing, their mic and the camera and the notebook, everything was ready, and they were jotting down the points and doing everything there. And imagine, after 10 years, I was in I was in Nigeria working for an Italian company. 10 years, mind you. So one of the Italian worker or the officer, he came to me, I have seen you somewhere. I said, you couldn't have, because I've never been to Italy so far. And have you been to Delhi? He said, no. So I said, you couldn't have seen me. He said, no, I've seen you, and my memory is very sharp. And within a few minutes he came back. You were in the army? Yes. You took part in the Bangladesh operations? Yes. The Italian TV showed that scene completely throughout for a month about the Bangladesh war, as if that was the only piece of war which was taking place. So the whole of Italy, they knew about the Bangladesh war. Sidney Schanberg of New York Times, I hope I'm not taking too much time.
Make your last point about New York Times, then we'll...
No, the last point I'll make it. On 16th, in Dhaka, they had the Vijay Day. But Brigadier Mohammad Hayat of our sector, Jasor Khulna sector, he did not surrender. He said, no, I won't surrender. But somehow, on 17th morning, he agreed, and then he surrendered. And imagine, Brigadier Tiwari and Brigadier Mohammad Hayat, they were the roommates in 1946 in Bangalore. So after the surrender ceremony, you can imagine, what sort of hugs and tears and all that. And the last point is, I was detailed to escort 7 lieutenant colonels of the Pak Army to our mess and offer them a cup of tea and paratha before they are sent to across the border. I'm talking, we were in Bangladesh, across the border means to India. So one of the lieutenant colonels, he said, Major, do you think you have won the war? You are victorious? If you think that, you are misunderstanding. No, I had no idea what he was trying to say, what he meant. He said, look, we had no air, artillery, we had no, all this technical, because all the technical boys from Bangladesh, they had deserted us. So we were completely sort of immobilized. Secondly, the the local people, they were so much anti-Pak army that for even small things, for marketing, they had to send, let's say, a section of troops escorting them. So he says, our life was miserable, and without the Bangladesh, you would never have won. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colonel. We appreciate that first-hand account of...
Can I comment?
Yeah.
He's now...
Mr. Inu is going to make a comment.
He is Lieutenant General?
He's Colonel retired.
Colonel. Nice listening to you, Colonel. So, during the liberation struggle, one Major Malhotra was with us in Tandua, up Dehradun, Chakrata. So he became Lieutenant General later. So, well, it is a fact that if you look at the Pakistani army positions, it would have taken many months and days to conquer Dhaka. But because of the brilliance of General Manekshaw and General Aurora, they planned to capture Dhaka in a very interesting way. There are cantonments, armed cantonments across Bangladesh. So from India, General Manekshaw planned bypass the cantonments, don't fight the cantonments, just bypass and just rush to Dhaka. That is how within few days, the Indians and the Mukti Bahinis were pouring into Dhaka and the cantonments were left at bay. So there is no clash, no bloodshed. So that is how we won the last days of our war. And you are correct, every 75 million people of Bangladesh, after the declaration of 26 December, March, independence by Bangabandhu, he was arrested, but 75 million people thought themselves to be a Mujib. That is the thing. They thought that is a Mujib and they started their war. Nobody asks where he is, but everybody say, okay, he has said fight. We've started fighting. That is the thing. Thanks.
Okay, we've got time for maybe two more.
Very young person.
Two ladies. Give your question, we'll answer jointly.
Good evening, sir. Sir, my name is Ritika from Kirodimal College. Sir, as we know that SAARC somewhere reflects identity of South Asia. And if we want to make 21st century Asian century, then South Asia cannot remain fragmented. So, sir, my question is that how India and Bangladesh can cooperate to revive and maintain relevance of SAARC in today's scenario?
And you can give your question also, then Mr. Inu.
Good evening, sir. I'm Soumya from Kartavya Society of Kirodimal College. So, sir, my question is that what are the strategies that we can make in order to further improve our relationship with the country Bangladesh? Thank you.
What strategy to further? What strategy to further?
I think on SAARC, your point is well taken, and I think people in Delhi has spent hours and months and days to, give a lot of momentum to SAARC. But there are a few countries which doesn't want SAARC to be. If SAARC cannot remain hostage to bilateral agenda and bilateral irritants. And there is a particular country which doesn't want, if the country doesn't want, if Pakistan doesn't want Indian thoroughfare to Afghanistan via Pakistan, doesn't want to sign a road treaty for the SAARC, doesn't want to sign a railway agreement. What does India alone or Bangladesh alone cannot take the blame, because it was Bangladesh, then President General Ershad's idea to create SAARC in 1985. It was Zia, and then Ershad mooted that idea. Took forward that idea, and the Indian leaders had also. And in fact, in 2007, the Indian Prime Minister visited under trying circumstances. It was a very, he could have been, that's in a difficult hostile regime in Dhaka. There are forces which doesn't want. Therefore India has carved out things like BIMSTEC, things like BBIN, a regional cooperation connecting Bangladesh with Southeast Asia as part of the larger Indo-Pacific strategy. SAARC is simply not working because of, obstacles created by a particular country.
Let me add a few words. Well, any regional conglomeration, there are two types in the world. One is market-induced. Then they form a regional, sub-regional. But SAARC is not a market-induced regional conglomeration. It is a top-down approach. Some leaders thought, and they formed a structure at the top. So that is a problem for SAARC. And the Pakistan problem is there. So at this moment, what is the way forward? We cannot stop. We must look at the peoples. So the concept of sub-regional cooperation has been enhanced and put forward. So India-Bangladesh is putting forward, emphasizing on sub-regional cooperation. At the same time, India and Bangladesh both are members of BIMSTEC, BBIN, and other regional cooperation in the East. So this sub-region, the northeastern India, Bangladesh, then to the east, Thailand and up to Indonesia, these BIMSTECs, so there is a linkage. So we are not waiting for Pakistan, we are moving ahead. And here I should say, if Bangladesh and India cooperates vigorously, then we have a future. Thank you.
You want to pick up that lady? Strategies to improve bilateral relations. Strategies to improve bilateral relations.
ক্যান্টন ঢাকা ছিল ক্যান্টনমেন্ট ছিল করছে কি মানে সহ এগুলো ক্ল্যাশ করেনি কিন্তু ভেঙে চলে গেছে ক্ল্যাশিং হয়নি
Okay, I think we'll have to close it now because we're out of the allotted time. Let me just thank very much our three panelists for their excellent presentations and giving different perspectives on India-Bangladesh relations and how we move forward. Mr. Dotto made three critical suggestions. One was that the broader prosperity of the borders could be promoted by border economic zones or co-prosperity zones, which is, I think, an idea that already people are talking about. In fact, even before all this came up, there used to be a ropeway which carried cement from Meghalaya to Bangladesh, long time ago. Then, not cement, limestone. Then also, the importance of waterways. I think Bangladesh is a country where waterways is a part of its civilization. So much depends on the waterways and so many people's lives are linked to the waterways. And the idea that we have some India-Bangladesh museum or festival celebrating these waterways is a very apt idea which can be also looked at. And of course, cooperation amongst the youth goes without saying, particularly the younger generation of entrepreneurs. There are ideas, particularly in high-tech areas, where the youth know much more than all of us. And if they get together, they'll come up with many good ideas for cooperation and starting their own little enterprises. So thank you, Mr. Datto. Honorable Mr. Inu, of course, it was nice to hear a first-hand account from the days of 71 when he was in Dehradun and training 10,000 of the Mujib Bahini. That is a great achievement and something he will always, I'm sure, cherish. But he traced the full history of development of relations, how the early promise of cooperation between Mrs. Gandhi and Bangabandhu Mujibur Rahman unfortunately was interrupted by the tragic assassination of the Bangladesh leader, and how later military rule also brought some sort of roadblocks on the way to cooperation. But since the return of the Awami League, there's been enormous progress. Mr. Inu specifically highlighted the land boundary agreement and the industrial and investment cooperation that has now come. But he also set out the need to prioritize future development, particularly on sharing of waterways, on eliminating all forms of terrorism and radicalism, and to promote secularism and democracy. These are goals that we should never lose sight of. And I'm so glad that you mentioned for an Indian audience, once again reiterating the position of the Awami League government that Bangladesh territory will never be used to target India in any way through non-state actors or terrorists or things like that. Thank you, sir, for a very good presentation. And finally, Dipanjan focused on an issue which is, as he says, and I agree, largely forgotten, is the horrible genocide. I mean, when I was posted there, I heard these stories firsthand. The massacre at Dhaka University and some of the professors who lay in their rooms locked up for 2-3 days because they didn't dare step out. And how this has not been covered in international media, not been covered by any international tribunal or fact-finding mission, nothing at all. And this is something we should never lose sight of. It's a very important point. Thank you. So it leads me to thank Ambassador Vijay Thakur Singh for this opportunity to discuss India-Bangladesh relations on this very special occasion of the first Maitri Diwas celebration in Delhi. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ambassador Mitter and the distinguished panelists for such an enriching discussion. With this, we come to the end of today's program. On behalf of the Indian Council of World Affairs, I thank our participants and members of the audience for their participation. I request you all to kindly join us for refreshments in the 2 foyers.